Welcome back. JSE listed company Adapt IT is acquiring an Australian-based education-focused business, WiseNet Group. WiseNet SG and Kira Holdings property. For more on the future of the company and their recent expansion, I am joined by Adapt IT CEO Sbu Shabalala. Sbu, always a pleasure to have you in studio. Yeah, so you're on a buying spree. Tell us why, tell us what you are expecting these businesses that you've just acquired to do to shareholders' pockets.
Yes, sure. Thank you. And, our heart goes out to our colleagues in Kenya for the challenges that they've experienced. We hope that gets resolved soon. But our focus has been on expansion. Mm-hmm. As you know, the South African market has for a while been stagnant. So we've been forced as a business to look outside of South Africa for growth when South African buyers weren't buying. And part of what we do is we look for strategic acquisitions in the sectors that we focus in. So the acquisition of WiseNet, which we announced last week, is focused predominantly on extending our education business into the Australian market. It's a business that has been operating for 22 years, and it's focused predominantly on registered vocational training organizations in Australia and has 11% of that market, together with 11% of the market in New Zealand. So strategically, it's a fit for what we do in the education sector, because I guess we have saturated the education sector in the South African region.
Why Australia, though? A difficult market. Many of your colleagues listed on the JSE have been burnt. What makes you think your outcome will be any different?
Well, the nature of our business is software, and software by its nature is never regionally bound. This is a software as a service business, so that means its service is accessible worldwide. The fact that it's based in Australia does not preclude it from going into other markets. But if I narrow down our focus into the Australian market has twice as many universities as the South African market. It has 5,000 registered vocational training institutions, whereas South Africa has got around 50. Mm-hmm. So you'll understand that it's a big market insofar as education is concerned. So our focus is really because we understand the education market, and we understand the software that we're buying. So we believe our value proposition is completely different to other South African players that have gone into that market.
I mean, the World Economic Forum today coming out with its global risks report, and amongst some of the risks that are cited by business people like yourselves all over the world is the threats from data fraud and cybersecurity. I mean, as a business in the tech space, how worried are you about these threats?
Well, these threats for us are not new. They have been on the up. We've seen more attacks because data has now become monetized. Mm-hmm. But to that extent, as a business, we ensure that we have the right certifications together with the right protection that's driven by our security experts to protect our user data. Since inception, we've been dealing with critical user information, and we aim to protect that, and we continuously are improving our security in that regard. So yes, it is a threat, but as a business, we continuously mitigate against that threat.
Mm-hmm. So what are your plans for South Africa this year?
Well, the South African market has been stagnant. We've seen it in the last 6 months. Our plans is certainly to continue to seek customers who are buying. So there are fewer customers that are buying in our largest market in South Africa. So then we're seeing stagnation in this market. But what we will continue to do is the investment in the research and development that we're seeing. So there's a lot of R&D that we are investing in, because certainly the skills, most of our skills reside in the South African economy. So we continue to invest. So it means we're still hiring in the South African market. Mm-hmm. We're still doing R&D, getting ready for when the market picks up. So that's our approach for the South African market. Whilst we look to the rest of Africa, as I've said, our Kenyan office is doing well. The Botswana office is doing well, and we're now focusing on the Australasian market.
Kenyan office, I mean, the militant or attack, rather, that did happen yesterday, it is not anything new to Kenya. We do know that there have been past experiences whereby, we know Al-Shabaab is an active group there. But what concerns you more or most about doing business in that country?
Well, as we know, the ICT sector is buoyant in the Kenyan market. So when we look at country risks, yes, the terror risk is highlighted. But what we then tend to do is to set ourselves up and our risk mitigation processes to be able to have early warning signs, to be able to have early responses. As of now, we understand that all of our staff in the country are safe. So this is a risk that unfortunately is beyond Adapt IT. And we look at how the government reacts and what they put in place, and we evaluate the country risk on a continuous basis. At this point, I believe this has been isolated to one instance, and it did happen a few years ago, and security was heightened. It could have been a lapse in security in the short term, but we still believe that it doesn't fundamentally change the actual market that we target in the country.
So just to wrap up, I mean, it is an election year here back at home. At the weekend, we did see the plans that the ANC government does have for its economy, for your sector. Just speak to me about your expectations for the South African economy in this election year and the impact it might or might not have on your business.
Well, as we know, the government is run by the ruling party, and at the weekend, the ruling party in its manifesto specified that ICT and ICT automation is critical to the South African economic growth. We echo that sentiment. We believe that ICT as a sector requires a lot of focus because it is currently the fastest growing sector and can absorb skills, because we know that jobs are a critical component of what South Africa needs for sustainability. The ICT sector can offer that. So we're quite excited about now this focus that pinpoints IT as one of the critical sectors which need investment. Now, what we're going to do as a company is to ensure that we can target that investment in order for us to create employment in the ICT sector.
Much needed employment, but Sbu, let us leave it there. Of course, that was Sbu Shabalala, who is the CEO of Adapt IT, talking to us about the company's strategy, quite an aggressive expansion strategy that they are taking right now, having recently announced the purchase of a business in Australia. Right, now moving on to